Every week I do this. Or not. Good morning, everyone. It's funny, but it was really good summary. It's good because I have a very good ending to my small ending.
Yeah.
It's funny because you learn things every day. Like we always use like examples, but you learn things every day. And yesterday, as we were going to Alice's and Jack and Liam's cross country, I say Alice because we were on the way, and Alice is in the car being so loud, and she's like, I'm getting first place, and I'm gonna get it, and everyone's like, yes, you're gonna get it, and there was temptation for me to be like, man, she's being a little bit, but I was like, whatever, I'll let her be, she wants to believe for this, let her believe for this. So, and then she got first place. But something that I was thinking of, because it was a 2K for her, and as she was getting towards the end, we were sitting at the finish line, and I could see her little face, like just struggling. And then we all just started going, Alice, because we saw behind her, all these kids are starting to come up really close to her, and she was going to lose her spot. And we're like, Alice, just give her one last push, and everyone's yelling at her. And that girl just went like, boom, 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 really fast, and crossed that finish line and got first place for girls. And so that was a huge lesson to me, because I was thinking about it in this terms. Like, she knew she could see the end in sight, and she knew the victory was hers. She just had to keep going and pushing. And how sometimes we don't, like, if first of all, we don't know what the victory is. If we don't know, which is the promise of healing, then how can we, like, so many times we're like running but aimlessly, like with no goal in mind or no end. So why would we continue to run if there's no end? Like, if we we'll start feeling like, oh gosh, there's no end to this. And like, that's a hard thing. Like for me, like this week I saw that with the struggle that I was having, that I was just not thinking of the victory. I was focused on the problem. I was focused on this problem, and I was like, man, there's no end to this problem. That's all I could keep thinking. Like, if I just had focused on that there was an end to this problem, and the end was a victorious end, then I would have not struggled as much as I did, and then I would have just gone through like she did. But then something that Betsy told me, she's like, why didn't you call? But the good thing is I did have like Johnny and Julie there to encourage me, and when I finally was like, okay, you guys, they encouraged me, and it was easier, like just like it was for Alice and Liam. Yes, and Liam. And so, but I think sometimes we just get so overwhelmed by the problem, that we don't focus, instead of trying to focus on the solution. And I thought that was like, to encourage us, just in the two solutions that are in the Bible that are like concrete also, are in Isaiah 53:5 and in 1 Peter 2:24. They both end, they're talking about Jesus on the cross, and they both end with the same thing. By his stripes we are healed. Like, that's the victory line. By his stripes we are healed. So even if we're struggling for something, we see like, okay, if we can just keep our focus on that, it'll make it so much easier, because now we have a goal. We know there's an end. It's not like this misery all the time, and it makes it a lot easier. And for my situation, once I saw the victory, I was like, okay, never mind. I don't know why I'm focusing on this huge problem. Like, it's never been helpful to focus on the problem. You should be focusing on the solution, right? Without a solution, you can't get anywhere. But I just thought that was a big thing. And for a lot of people, they're like, well, what do I focus on? Well, look up any Bible verse, but just those two Bible verses right there, by his stripes we are healed. Like, a lot of times we'll tell prisoners or just anybody we're praying for, just say, by his stripes. Focus on that, so that you're not like overwhelmed by the situation. You're not overwhelmed by the problem. Focus on, by his stripes we are healed. You'll hear my kids, like, when they're dealing with something, if they've not seen the victory, by his stripes we are healed. And it's funny, because yesterday Sophia came up to me and she's like, Mom, can you pray for me? And every day I pray for my kids, right? But she came up and she's like, I have the horse landed her hoof on her. This girl with the horse, man. He had landed her hoof and twisted it on her foot, and she was like, and it's hurting. She's like, I can barely touch it. And so I went in there and I started praying, because it's funny when you're like, just went through something that you're dealing with, and then you're able to encourage someone else. And so when you have that victory, and so I was like, okay, Sophia, your victory is that by his stripes you are healed. This is done. It was already a done deal. Because when Jesus died on the cross, that was the moment. That's why it says by his stripes you are healed. It's not now, today you have to ask him for healing. That healing is already provided. It's just about you receiving it in your body. And so I said, okay, I prayed for her first. I laid her hands on her, encouraged her. And then she's like, starts rubbing her foot, and she's like, it doesn't hurt. And she's like, Mom, it's so great. Like, to her, she was like, it was getting so painful to these kids. And Sophia, like, I think I've said this before, she's probably the kid that's most been exposed to the other side, where I didn't know all this stuff when she was, little. So she's been more exposed to, like, the pain and fear, and so she has to struggle more in her mind to remember, like, not to let herself get into that. And so for her, she was like, this is so amazing. And that was what she said last night. She was like, this is so amazing. And then she lay down and went to sleep. And her smile was so big, and I haven't seen a smile, because sometimes it's hard. If you're struggling and you're not encouraged, then what happens? You get discouraged and you give up. Mm-hmm. But if you, like, there was a point where I noticed that Alice had passed and kids were coming, and I was like, where's Jack? Oh no, Jack's probably just sitting somewhere. But then I see his little self coming around, and we're all like, no, Jack. And of course, same thing. This one wouldn't even look. He's like, I'm going. Oh, so but he could hear. He said he could hear the encouragement. That was like big for them. Like when they heard it, Alice said she was like, I don't want them to keep saying things. But it helped. But she's like, but it helped to push her forward. And Liam's told us the same thing. When you hear that cheering, and I think that's why everyone gets at the end, because then the kids are encouraged those last minute where they're like, I'm done. And that's the same thing for us. That's when we most need people that believe like this, that can be like, hey, you're there. Just keep looking at the victory. The victory is that you're done, and it's a finished work. And one of my favorite, I have like top 5, I always say, but there's like about 5 verses that I just love, and it's Deuteronomy 20. It's the first 4 verses. But the 4th one, it says that the victory is God's. So we prepare the horse for battle. The horse is going into battle. You are going to deal with things, but the victory is God's. And if you can remember that, that's where I think a lot of people stumble. They don't remember that God is the victory. So they just think they're aiming at, well, hopefully I'll get healed, instead of, well, no, the victory, God already made this happen. We're not waiting to see if we're gonna win. No, we've already won. The moment we started the race, before we even started the race, while we were warming up, the victory was already won. So the moment something starts, we already have the victory. So today, if you get sick in 2 days, the victory was already here today. It's not here in 2 days. It's not here in 5 days when you're better. It's here today. And so that's something that's really helped me a lot of times with when I have to deal with something that I'm like, okay, that's my focus. Like, I don't focus. I think I keep reiterating this, but that's the biggest thing that I can reiterate, because for me, that's been the thing. If I focus on the negative, on the problem, then it's hard for me to push through. But if I can focus on what the victory is, what the good thing is, like Paul said, if there's anything lovely, good report, all of that, if there's anything good, look on that. And he was in the middle of prison when he was saying that. He was in a nasty, horrible prison cell, and here he's saying, if there's anything. I can't even imagine what he could have seen there that was anything good, because here he is in prison, probably with rats and nasty roaches and who knows what else, dealing with probably horrible people in there. And he's saying, if there's anything, just look at that. Keep your eyes focused on that. And that's what I've learned to do is, okay, this seems like a really bad situation, but let's just focus on the victory is still his. Sorry. I'm like hyped up. But I think that alone, like I saw that in Alice. Like Alice, there was confidence in her decision that she was winning first place. There was no doubt in her mind. Like, I'm winning first place.
And she faced the tall mountain, because if you look at the video, I have a video of when all the elementary kids took off. There were 108 elementary kids, and when the race started, a lot of the kids were sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
So your mental like thing that you normally go to is you start thinking, oh man,
look how far away they're getting.
They're getting ahead of me.
Yeah.
There's 30 kids ahead of me. There's no way that I'm gonna do it. But
look at what I'm feeling in my
Exactly.
body. Look at how bad it is. Look at how it's getting worse.
I can't push myself. But I honestly think she didn't think about it, because as soon as they turned their first corner, she started just like ping pong. Boom, boom, boom. She started moving to the front.
Because I think to Alice, it wasn't about the kids beating the kids. It was about her time. She knew she had to make a certain time. It was what you were saying. It's not about beating some other kid. It's not about being better. It's about that her goal was this. Her goal was first place. So she was just focused on first place. She wasn't focused on, well, is this person gonna get first place, or is this person? So she wasn't focused on all the like, if it was us, I wouldn't be focusing on all the symptoms and all the things that I'm seeing and what this person's saying and how this person feels. Instead, I'm focusing on, wait, God said I'm healed. He said, by his stripes, I'm healed. And that's what I'm going to keep my eye on. And I'm just going to go for that goal, not all the bad things that come in my way. Or
Yeah.
if somebody comes and tells me, look at you, look at how sick you look. I don't care. I'm, on my, I have a goal. That's what I'm following. So I think that was good to point that out. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So if you take it from a perspective of if you're dealing with some kind of attack, some kind of sickness, you have to put up some resistance. You can't just expect that it's just going to miraculously be gone. You have to outlast his attack. And that's the endurance piece that I think about when you're talking. Like, I just have to outlast him. And because the promises are true. So if God said that if we resist an attack, we resist the devil, he has to flee.
well, and what's the problem? A lot of people don't do, like, Alice didn't just get there yesterday and then run this race and win. What has she been doing all week? She's been practicing, she's been training, she's been building up her endurance for this. A lot of people don't do the first part of it. So when it comes, it makes it a lot harder. Obviously, can we get through that battle? Yes, the victory is always God's, no matter what. If we don't, that doesn't matter. But it makes it a lot easier to focus on the win when you already have trained for it and you're working on it.
Yeah.
So it's like putting in that work beforehand to prepare yourself for that. That's why the horse prepares for battle. It does
Right.
prepare for battle beforehand.
Yeah.
And that was my message to you. I just kind of wanted to conclude with that because I feel like that's what a lot of people get caught up in, like being like, just unmotivated when you don't see a victory. But if you just know that the victory is always going to be God's, then you can't fail. And it's obviously with the race it's different, but for us, there's no part of us that has to make this victory happen. The victory is already there. There's no part of us that has. We just prepare to go into this thing, whatever it is that we're dealing with in life, and then it's there already. There's nothing that we have to do to make it happen. We don't have to make, I think because a lot of people get caught up when I lay hands on the sick, how do I make them have their fever go? You don't have to make them do anything. God, that's where his hand comes on your hand to heal the sick.
Right.
You're the point of contact of, I'm going to put my hands on here and this power is going to flow through you.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get caught up, like, well, what if I can't make that happen? Well, that's the problem. You can't make that happen. There's nothing in you that can make that happen other than a lack of faith to say I'm going to lay hands on the sick. So a lot of people say, I can't make that happen, so I won't even try to heal a person. Well,
they
if you
won't.
don't put,
Oh, they won't.
and they won't.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if you know the victory is yours, then why you can confidently, like Alice, say, I'm going to heal you and go up to somebody and heal them. But if you don't believe that you have the victory of that, then you better not put your hands. Don't be putting your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. Don't pray for me. Don't say anything. If you're not going to be confident in that. Because then guess what? Then everybody is like, well, see, it didn't work. Yeah. She couldn't get it. He didn't. And that's not to say that if it didn't work, if you're confidently going there, then What if Alice would have won first place? Do you think she would just not race again? No, she's gonna try again. You're gonna keep trying until she gets that first place. But I'm talking about the people that are just like playing church. They're like, yeah. I'm gonna lay hands on the sick. Oh, it doesn't work. But they're already, you can know those people because they're the people that aren't trying to make this happen. They're the people already saying, like, I don't know how this is going to happen. So why are you going to do that? If you don't know how this is going to happen, then you don't have the victory. So if you need to have the victory, but this is where it's important to understand your promises.
Right.
Yeah, they're not convinced.
Yeah.
That's faith. Is you're confident. You're convinced that when you lay hands on somebody, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, last night it wasn't like, I was like, well, let me see, hopefully this works for Sophie. I was like, okay, Sophie, I'm done. Let me lay hands on your foot and let's get this over with.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like that with the kids. I'll be like, okay, let's just get this over with, because I'm like frustrated about the situation, maybe because every day there's something. But it literally is if, like, with confidence, and then, there's other times I have to work a little bit harder with my own knowledge, like I've said, because of things that I've let out in, like maybe unbelief somehow. But it's a confidence thing. And it's that boldness you were talking about earlier. A lot of people are operating without the Holy Spirit, and they're not seeing the results. But it says He's the power from on high. So the power from on high helps to get those gifts flowing through you, and then people don't understand why they're not.
Yeah.
They're like, this was the fastest.
That really wasn't.
It's just I wanted to conclude it. I didn't feel like I closed it off last week, so I was like, let me give